Her mind at 2 am, when you're no longer there, modern stoic. Sometimes, the strongest thing a man can do is walk away, not out of pride, but out of self-respect. Anonymous. It's never during the daylight hours, not when she's surrounded by conversation or leaning on the noise of her routine. It's in the stillness, around 2 a.m, when the world goes quiet, the screens go black, and there's nothing left to distract her. That's when you show up, not on her phone, not in her messages, but in the space where silence meets truth. You return in fragments, not because you reached out, but because you didn't, because you stopped showing up in the places she used to find you, emotionally available, steady, asking for nothing, yet offering everything. And now that you're no longer there, she feels it in ways she didn't anticipate. This video explores that moment, not to romanticize loss, but to understand the impact of becoming the man who rises instead of chases, the man who doesn't beg to be remembered, but becomes unforgettable through quiet strength, emotional discipline, and purposeful absence. Not by playing games, not by cold withdrawal, but by evolving into someone who doesn't wait to be chosen, because he's already chosen himself. Let's begin. Number 1. The distance that speaks for itself. Don't underestimate the silence. That distance you left behind, it speaks louder than any last word. She used to breeze past your name like it was just another ghost in her scroll, but not now. Not at 2 a.m, when the world goes quiet and the past starts whispering. She opens the app. She sees your name. She hesitates. No new message, no emoji, no reaction, just air. Still. Heavy. And in that space, so casual, so vacant, something begins to stir. Not desperation, no regret, just the haunting realization that she's feeling something you no longer feed. You used to show up, drop a like, a comment, a hey, how's your day? Now you show nothing, and that nothing is powerful. It's not a game, it's not punishment, it's discipline. It's what the modern Stoic understands. Don't chase noise. Let silence speak. Let absence work. That's the blessing of Stoicism. You've stopped reacting. You've stopped checking. You've stopped needing to be seen. That's what rattles her now. You haven't gone cold. You've gone calm. You didn't storm out. You step back. Clean. Quiet. Clear. And that peace, it's got gravity. The old Stoic knows peace isn't given, it's built, earned, protected, and you, man, you've built it brick by brick in the quiet hours she never thought would matter. But they do, especially now. Now that the phone doesn't buzz at midnight, now that your presence is just a shadow, still felt, no longer found. Her fingers slide through old messages. She's not replying, she's remembering. She's trying to grasp something that's already moved on. She expected you'd fold, that you'd reach out again, like before. But the modern Stoic doesn't fold. He doesn't lean into confusion. He removes himself from it. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. That's what's got her spinning now. Not that you're gone, but that you're not waiting, not even watching. And that certainty she once felt, the one that told her she could always pull you back in, it's gone. Replaced by something deeper, a void, not of anger, but of choice. Don't mistake her nostalgia for love. It's comfort she's missing. It's the quiet steadiness you once carried without trying, the kind of energy that didn't beg to be noticed, but always was. Because the old Stoic doesn't need to announce his worth. He is his worth. You're not trying to prove anything. You're living in the truth you built while she thought you'd wait. And that's what unsettles her most. How still you are. How unaffected. How complete. Be that man. Be the one who doesn't run back to the fire just to feel the heat. Be the one who learned that silence has power. That space holds answers. That presence isn't about being loud. It's about being solid. And when she sits there, under a dim screen light, swimming in all the moments you no longer offer, what she misses isn't just your voice. It's the calm, unwavering force of a man who knew how to leave right. Not out of spite, but out of strength. That's the blessing of Stoicism. That's the mark of the modern Stoic. That's who you are now, and she knows it. Number 2. Regret dressed as reflection. At 2 a.m., she's wide awake, scrolling through your old messages, not to relive the words, but to finally hear them in the silence you've left behind. She remembers your calm, your stillness, the way you never raised your voice, even when she did. Back then, she mistook your composure for coldness. Now she understands it wasn't indifference, it was discipline, it was stoicism. You didn't walk away to punish her, you walked away to protect your peace. While she's haunted by late-night reflections dressed as regret, you're not offering explanations, because a stoic man doesn't chase closure, he creates it within. Her mind replays the way you never argued, how you simply accepted things and let them be. That, more than any grand gesture, is what unsettles her now. You didn't need to say goodbye to mean it. You just stopped showing up. No more replies, no more hints, no more waiting. And suddenly, your absence became the loudest thing in her life. That's what stoic life looks like, not bitter, not vengeful, but immovably peaceful. You're not circling back. You're not hoping she sees your worth now, because a man who has learned the hard, won lessons of stoicism knows better than to return to chaos. You've evolved past needing to be understood by those who once looked right through you. And now, while she wrestles with whether she wants your return or your forgiveness, the truth is, you're not waiting for her to decide. You've already moved on, quietly, powerfully, like a true modern stoic. If you've ever walked away, not in anger, but in strength, this message is yours. You don't owe anyone closure when you've already made peace with yourself. You don't chase what once ignored your worth, and you sure as hell don't look back at chaos once you've tasted calm. If this hits home, drop this in the comments right now. My silence is strength, not surrender. Like this video, subscribe for more modern stoic wisdom, and remember, peace isn't found in the noise. It's forged in the quiet decision to choose yourself. Number 3. The questions she can't answer. She sits in the dark, staring at the ceiling, flooded with questions she'll never ask. Why did he stop trying? Did he ever care? Is he with someone else? But you're not there to answer. And that silence isn't weakness. It's power. It's the disciplined strength of a man who walks the path of the modern stoic. You see, a stoic man doesn't chase validation. He doesn't explain himself to those who no longer listen. As Marcus Aurelius said, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. You were present. You gave. You asked. You showed up. But the moment she stopped meeting you halfway, you didn't beg. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't fold. You stepped back, quietly, deliberately, completely, because that's what a man who lives by stoic principles does. He acts with intention, not impulse. He respects himself enough to walk away without slamming the door. Let her replay every conversation. Let her dissect every silence. That is not your burden anymore. You didn't disappear overnight. You didn't ghost her. You endured. You waited. You tried. But a stoic man knows connection is a two-way bridge. If she stops crossing it, you stop waving from the other side. That's not cruelty. That's clarity. That's control. That's self-respect sharpened by fire. You must understand this. Your peace is sacred. Don't hand it over to anyone who doesn't value it. Don't waste your energy trying to be understood by someone who stopped listening. The moment she gave up the effort to understand you, she gave up the right to your explanation. Now it's and your silence roars louder than any apology could. This is the hour when the truth of who you were hits hardest, not because you vanished, but because you held the line. You chose dignity over drama. You didn't collapse. You mastered detachment. You followed stoic principles to the letter, and in doing so, you won the war of the self. The best revenge, Marcus Aurelius wrote, is to be unlike him who performed the injury. You didn't retaliate. You elevated. You focused on your own path. You chose peace over pettiness. You showed restraint when others would have crumbled. Modern life will test you. Emotions will rise. People will project their confusion onto your stillness. Don't flinch. Don't explain. Don't chase. Be calm in the storm. Let your absence speak louder than your presence ever could. Let her questions echo into the void she created. You owe her nothing, not an answer, not a text, not closure. You owe yourself everything. Your peace, your purpose, your power. Be the man who doesn't need to be understood to be unshakable. Be the man who walks away without resentment. Be the man who lives the Stoic code, not as a tactic, but as a way of life. There's victory in silence, mastery in restraint, power in choosing yourself, and if she never figures it out, that's not your concern. Your job is to move forward, relentlessly, purposefully, decisively. Let her wrestle with the questions. You've already found the answer. Number 4, the phantom presence. She can't shake you, not because you're around, but precisely because you're not. Your hoodie still hangs like a ghost in her closet. Your favourite song ambushes her on the radio. That dumb inside joke still echoes in her laughter when she's alone. That's the paradox of the modern Stoic. You don't haunt her by clinging. You linger by letting go. You didn't beg to be remembered. You made remembering involuntary. That's the blessing of Stoicism. You lead with calm certainty. And suddenly, your silence speaks louder than any confession ever could. She's not up at 2 a.m. because you're texting, chasing, proving. She's up because you're not. Because absence, when worn like armour by a man with depth, cuts sharper than presence ever could. You were never trying to impress. That was the whole point. Your stillness. That was your signature. The world taught her to look for chaos, fast replies, loud declarations, anxious affection. But what you gave her was a slow, burning presence. You didn't flinch. You didn't react. And that confused her. She mistook your peace for passivity. But the old Stoic inside you knew. Stillness is not a lack of emotion. It's the mastery of it. And now that you've stepped away, fully and finally, the room is echoing with everything you didn't say. That space you once filled with composed attention, it's vast now, it's hollow, it's heavy. Don't underestimate the weight of your withdrawal. It's teaching her more than any speech ever could. You were deliberate, not distant. That's the difference. You didn't need to broadcast your worth. You embodied it. You didn't pressure her. You didn't perform. And now she's reading your old texts like sacred scripture, playing your voice notes like lullabies, not because you're available, but because you're not. That's what the blessing of Stoicism gives a man the ability to imprint without invading. You were quiet, but never absent. You were soft, spoken, but never weak. And now your echo is louder than anyone shouting for her attention. She didn't see it when she had it. That composed affection, that intentional presence, that frustratingly elegant self, control. Be honest, she probably thought your calm meant you didn't care, that your slow replies were disinterest, not discipline, that your emotional restraint was distance, not discernment. But now, that restraint is what consumes her, because it's clear you didn't need her. You chose her, and that difference is the thunderclap she now hears in every sleepless night. Don't explain yourself. Don't run back to be understood. The modern Stoic doesn't beg to be seen. He just walks in alignment. And if she failed to recognize it, then let the silence do the teaching now. Your legacy isn't in what you gave her. It's in how you gave it without ego, without performance, without need. That's what stays. That's what lingers. That's what she can't shake. You didn't leave pieces of yourself behind. You left your essence. And that, my friend, is unforgettable. Be the phantom. Be the presence that haunts, not because you tried to haunt her, but because you knew exactly when to leave. If this moved you, share and subscribe for more modern Stoic insight. Comment to remember, real presence leaves echoes, because it never had to beg to be felt. Let that be your reminder. Silence isn't weakness. It's power, discipline, and self-worth. Number 5. The moment she realized the game was over. She pulled away thinking you'd chase. That was the plan. A classic power play. She assumed her silence would ignite your urgency, your panic, your need to fix it. But you didn't bite. You didn't plead. You didn't prove. You didn't even flinch. You let her go, not with bitterness, not with some petty show of pride, but with the kind of calm that only comes from understanding something deeper. At first, she may have felt in control, that smug sense of victory, thinking her withdrawal would pull you closer, that eventually your silence would crack under pressure, that you'd come running like so many others before. Instead, she was met with the one thing she didn't plan for nothing. No reaction, no chasing, just space. Stillness. A void that echoed louder than any confrontation. At 2 a.m., when the noise of the world quotes and the attention fades, reality comes calling. Her phone doesn't light up, your name doesn't appear, and that's when the cracks begin to show. She realizes it wasn't devotion you lacked, it was drama you refused to entertain. What she thought was a test was actually a lesson. You didn't walk away to win, you walked away because you knew connection isn't something you beg for. A man grounded in Stoicism doesn't react to games. He responds to the truth. He knows that chasing what's pulling away is a betrayal of self, respect. Stoic life isn't about suppression. It's about clarity. What doesn't reciprocate doesn't remain. So he doesn't panic. He pauses, reflects, then releases, not out of revenge, but out of principle. You know that if love is real, it doesn't have to be manipulated. If it's not real, it's not worth keeping. Now she sits in the dark, wondering why the cold shoulder didn't bring you closer, why her emotional silence wasn't met with desperate noise. The irony is sharp. She was trying to provoke the very warmth she now craves, the steady presence, the quiet certainty, the peace you carried. But you never played the game. You simply walked away. No drama, no performance, just resolve. That kind of restraint, it is unsettling. It cuts deeper than any angry message ever could, because now she sees it clearly. Her silence wasn't strength, it was avoidance. Her control was just fear hiding behind a mask, and while she was trying to shield herself from hurt, you were choosing clarity, freedom, peace. That's when it hits her. This wasn't just about a missed text or a cooling connection. This was about a man who truly didn't need to be needed. A man who didn't just talk about self, worth. He lived it. The Stoic lessons weren't something you quoted. They were something you became. You didn't crumble in silence. You thrived in it. And now she scrolls through old messages, old photos, remembering the calm in your presence, the safety, the honesty. All the things she misread as ordinary now suddenly feel extraordinary, and the loss. It lingers, not loud, but steady. Not dramatic, but undeniable, because she didn't lose someone who begged. She lost someone who knew himself, who understood that walking away without bitterness is power, that being unmoved isn't weakness, it's strength with direction. She didn't lose a player in her game. She lost a man who mastered the art of not playing at all. And that's the kind of loss that doesn't fade with time. It echoes, quietly, but forever. Number 6. Craving closure, but only if you deliver it. Let me be clear. Her mind at 2 a.m. is not craving you. It's craving control. It's craving the version of you that used to bend, chase, explain. She lies there wanting one final word, not because she deserves it, but because silence terrifies her more than the truth ever could. She expected to walk away and still hold the script, still direct the emotional aftermath. But you, standing firm in your Stoic principles, deny her that luxury. You don't reach out. You don't explain. You don't validate the very confusion she created. And that drives her mad. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength, said Marcus Aurelius. Understand this, your silence isn't passive, it's power. It's a strategy. It's the result of growth. The modern Stoic doesn't send texts for closure. He doesn't chase ghosts in the night. He doesn't bleed emotionally for those who discarded him. No, he holds the line. Because he knows that peace is not something she gives, it's something he claims. Don't be fooled by the emotional bait. That I miss you hidden in silence, that unspoken plea disguised as Instagram stories, memory posts, or photos from better days. You must resist the urge to respond. You must remember. Closure is a gift she forfeited when she chose distance. Let her sit with the consequences of uncertainty. Let her mind run wild while you master yours. This is what Stoic men do. They don't react, they respond. And sometimes, the best response is none at all. They don't explain chaos, they walk away from it. The man who lives by Stoic principles doesn't need to be understood. He doesn't need to fix someone else's story. He rewrites his own. That is power, that is mastery, that is freedom. Let's get real. If she truly valued clarity, she would have stayed when things were clear. If she respected your presence, she wouldn't gamble on your absence. A man of discipline understands this. He doesn't bargain with the past. He doesn't negotiate with regret. He moves. Forward. Always forward. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius reminds us. The Stoic doesn't look back to fix what's already fallen. He doesn't reopen doors that close themselves. He doesn't chase the comfort of being needed. Instead, he builds his fortress of peace, brick by brick, with silence, self, control, and sheer force of will. In today's world, where emotional chaos is mistaken for depth, where drama is disguised as passion, be the outlier. Be the man who doesn't need a text at 2 a.m. to validate who he is. Be the man who lets others fumble through their own noise while he sharpens his clarity. Her mind may replay every word, every memory, every moment. But you sleep, deeply, confidently, because you know some endings are stronger in silence. Some victories come not from saying more, but from walking away and saying nothing. You must be that man, a modern Stoic, a man of Marcus Aurelius's mould, unmoved, unshaken, unavailable to the confusion you didn't create. That's how you win. That's how you lead. That's how you master life. Number 7. The fear she didn't expect. Not the fear of losing you. No, it's worse than that. It's the fear that you've already healed, that somewhere between her silence and your stillness, you found peace, that you no longer need her. That's the quiet terror she didn't see coming. It doesn't show up in the daylight, when the world is loud and she's surrounded by faces who don't know what she's really feeling. No, this fear creeps in when the world shuts off, around 2 a.m., when the glow of her screen offers no comfort and her pride can't save her. That's when she hears it, your silence. But it's not the bitter, angry kind. It's the calm kind, the kind born from the blessing of Stoicism, and that shakes her more than any fight ever could. She told herself she wanted space, that she needed freedom, clarity. She swore she didn't want to hear from you, but deep down she expected you to wait. She imagined your world freezing in place while she sorted out her feelings. She thought your love would linger in the dark like hers did, but it didn't. It matured. It got quiet. It became still. You didn't chase. You didn't plead. You didn't even react. You simply stepped back. And that's what broke her. Because now, every second of your silence doesn't say I'm hurt. It says I'm healed. You didn't collapse under the weight of her absence. You rose under it. You became what she never expected, a modern Stoic. And that's the part that keeps her awake. She thought Stoicism was just emotional coldness. But now she sees. It's emotional clarity. You didn't run from the hurt. You refined it. You didn't bury the chaos. You ordered it. You didn't ignore your feelings. You outgrew their grip. You became the old Stoic she never saw coming, the man who doesn't need to announce his worth because he's living it. She checks her phone and your name doesn't appear. She replays moments when she expected fire but received calm. She offered silence, expecting a storm, but instead she got peace. And that peace, it lingers. It haunts her because it isn't passive. It's not empty. It's not waiting. It's the presence of a man who's no longer asking to be understood. That's the blessing of Stoicism. It's not about hiding emotion. It's about not being ruled by it. It's not detachment. It's strength. You stopped needing her to complete your narrative. You stopped looking for closure from someone who never gave you clarity. You stopped explaining your worth to someone who couldn't see it the first time. And now, while she's lying there, eyes wide open, wrestling with the echo of your absence, you're sleeping soundly in a life that no longer needs her permission. That's the shift. That's the echo she can't silence, because you didn't just move on. You transformed. You became the man she thought she could replace, but now realizes she never actually understood. And that realization, it doesn't whisper. It thunders. That's what happens when a man lets go without bitterness, grows without revenge, and loves without fear. That's the mark of a modern Stoic. You don't chase what broke you. You bless it and leave. You don't scream for closure. You become it. So let her feel it. Let the stillness speak. Let the peace be louder than your presence ever was. Because, in the end, the greatest truth is this: you were the rare one all along. She just didn't see it until you stopped trying to prove it. Number 8. When confidence feels like coldness. Don't let her confusion define your calm. She told herself you stopped caring. That's the story she crafted, because it was easier than facing the truth. You cared deeply, but you cared without desperation, without pleading, without surrendering yourself, respect on the altar of her emotional inconsistency. She mistook your peace for distance, your stillness for apathy. She called your calm cold. But brother, you weren't cold. You were composed. You weren't being distant. You were practicing discipline. You see, the Stoic life doesn't erase emotion. It refines it. It doesn't numb your heart. It teaches it how to beat with purpose. A man anchored in Stoicism knows when to speak, and more importantly, when to say absolutely nothing. And that silence, it echoes at 2 a.m. That's when her mind gets loud, when your absence becomes a presence all its own. No distractions, no noise, just memory. And it whispers things like, he never raised his voice, he never begged, he just stopped. She didn't understand then, but now she does. Now, with the stillness of night pressing against her thoughts, she finally feels the weight of what she once called indifference. Only now she sees it wasn't indifference, it was integrity. You didn't leave because you stopped loving her. You left because you started loving you. And that's the thing about Stoic men. We don't storm out. We don't slam doors. We exit with grace. We stop explaining ourselves to people committed to misunderstanding us. We stop showing up for someone who stopped showing up for us. That's not bitterness. That's wisdom. That's the Stoic lesson she never saw coming. At first, she watched your stories like a private investigator, waiting for a slip, up, a signal, something, anything. She searched for evidence that you were breaking down in her absence, but all she found was silence, not a weakness, not chaos, just a man, centered, still, calm. The very strength she couldn't recognize when it stood in front of her now haunts her in the shadows of her solitude. And you stayed still. You didn't flinch. You didn't run back the moment she got curious again, because a Stoic man doesn't chase closure. He becomes it. You knew that choosing her, when she couldn't choose you fully, meant betraying yourself. And you've done enough of that in your lifetime. Now, your peace speaks louder than your pleas ever could. Now, your absence is the loudest voice in the room. Let her wrestle with what you didn't say. Let her lie awake at 2 a.m., remembering a man who didn't beg, didn't panic, didn't explain his worth, but simply walked away when his value went unnoticed. Because confidence doesn't scream. It doesn't demand recognition. It just is. That's what she never understood. You weren't trying to win. You weren't playing games. You were living a Stoic life, and that life doesn't revolve around being understood. It revolves around being at peace. So don't go back to explain. Don't post to provoke. Don't break your silence just to feed her nostalgia. Be the man who doesn't flinch. Be the man who doesn't fold. Be the man who chose clarity over chaos. even if it cost him company. Because in a world full of noise, the man who can sit quietly with himself is the man she will never forget. And in that silence, you didn't just leave her behind. You found you. Number 9, the thought that haunts her. At 2 a.m, her mind races, not with noise, but with piercing clarity. The thought she tries to outrun catches up. What if I ruined something real? Not lust, not drama, not another fleeting story. No, she lost a man grounded in Stoic principles, a modern-day Marcus Aurelius who didn't need to raise his voice to be heard, a man whose presence brought stillness, who offered calm in her chaos, a man who didn't complete her because he was already whole. And now, in that deep silence where only truth speaks, she's faced with the echo of what she let slip. You were the man who didn't beg, didn't chase, didn't explain. You led with presence, not pressure. You were patient, not passive. You gave without demanding. But understand this: Stoic men do not wait forever. They endure, they observe, and then, with unwavering clarity, they walk, quietly, finely, completely. She mistook your discipline for distance, mistook your stillness for apathy. She believed your consistency was a weakness, when in fact it was the very mark of your power. That's what makes the absence hit harder than any goodbye, because real men, Stoic men, don't perform, they embody, they don't yell, they live. And when they're gone, the void left behind isn't noise, it's a contrast. She scrolls. She replays the words, the moments. I wonder how you stayed so composed, but the answer is simple. You weren't trying to win. You weren't playing to prove. You were living by Stoic code. Accept what is, let go of what is not. That's what unsettles her. Not your silence, but what it represents. Mastery, closure, strength. While she chased emotional highs, you stood firm in your sovereignty. While she searched for sparks, you offered fire, controlled, intentional, enduring. And now, every weak imitation of you only reminds her of what she lost. The men who perform affection, the ones who speak loud but say nothing, the ones who want her body but can't match her soul. None of them have your gravity, your stillness, your certainty. That's the burden of true masculinity. It leaves a mark. A real man, governed by Stoic principles, doesn't haunt her out of bitterness. He haunts her because he was rare, and she knows it now. But by the time she realizes this, you've already accepted the loss. You don't look back. You don't refresh her feed. You don't wait for I've been thinking. Because your thinking was done. That is the Stoic way. Control your reactions, own your choices, and evolve from the chaos you did not create. Let this be your instruction. Don't regress. Don't romanticize your past strength as weakness. Don't confuse compassion with compliance. You did not abandon her. You advanced. You outgrew the version of yourself that tolerate uncertainty in the name of love. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. You were, you are, and you must continue. Her late-night regret is not your burden. Her silence, breaking texts are not your responsibility. You've chosen peace over performance, stillness over reaction, mastery over emotion. That's how modern Stoics operate. That's how real men rise. So don't wait, don't revisit, don't explain. Let her remember, let her regret, let her wrestle with the weight of your calm, because in a world that shouts for attention, your silence is power, your stillness is legacy, and your absence is unforgettable. Stay grounded, stay disciplined, stay Stoic." Thanks for watching. Her mind at 2 a.m. when you're no longer there. Modern Stoic. If this spoke to you in any way, if it made you think, reflect, or feel seen, go ahead and like the video, share it with someone who might need it, and subscribe if you want more content like this. Got thoughts? Maybe something resonated, or didn't drop a comment below. I read them, and I'm always open to real conversations. Until next time, take care, stay grounded.